Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, hello, sisters in healthcare. I'm your host, Kim Schott, and I want to welcome you to another Thriving Practice coaching webinar. This is a place where female health professionals come to hear the latest breakthroughs in health technology and clinical best practices to help you pivot to a virtual practice and transform the health of your community. This webinar is brought to you by GeneSNP, DNA Analysis, and Isotonics. That's the world's most advanced nutraceutical to help you create a successful, integrative, functional, and lifestyle medicine practice. To learn more, visit isotonics.com/SCHOTT. That's isotonics.com/SCHOTT. This week, we're starting our new masterclass series on the 5 easy steps to building a profitable virtual practice, where we are looking at new models for medicine. If you're a healthcare practitioner, like most, you have an urgent need to reinvent your clinical business model and to develop specific strategies to achieve sustainable long term growth. And we have a great turnout of healthcare professionals who are either listening to us on Facebook Live or over the Zoom webcast. Now, today's call is the direct result of the questions we get from our clients in healthcare who are struggling to understand how to use marketing strategies to grow their virtual practice. So, no matter what field of medicine you're in, if you want to learn how to accelerate your online visibility and build better relationships, then trust me, you're in the right place. But before we go into the meat of the call, I just want to share another upcoming date with you. Our next free webinar in this masterclass series is really tomorrow, March the 31st, and that's at 7 p.m. Eastern or 4 p.m. Pacific. This is your chance as you're working through the Thriving Practice Coaching System to write down all your questions on what's stopping you in terms of getting more clients online, booking appointments online, online dispensaries, lab testing, anything you're working on to build your virtual practice where you're getting stopped. Just post your questions in our Thriving Practice Sisterhood Facebook group or send your questions using the webinar invitation notice. Then show up for the webinar and I'll answer each and every question that's sent to us. Please really make sure you use this time to get help from me, okay? Great. Let's get started. Today, I am super excited to have our guest, Dr. Marcy Buehler, kick off our masterclass series. She's going to talk to you about compassion fatigue and transformative power of self-care. You see, I'm just I'm just excited that Dr. Marcy's joining us because she spent a decade as an educational psychologist working in school systems. She later obtained her doctorate in psychology with a specialization in health. Additionally, she's a certified trauma professional and trained in mindfulness-based stress reduction. Currently, Dr. Buehler provides corporate wellness training, group and individual coaching, and offers a meditation subscription. Her passion to empower women to step into courageous and authentic living is important. And she is inspired to publish her first book, The Conqueress, a guide to overcoming obstacles and honoring yourself, which is currently available for pre-sale. She resides in Phoenix, Arizona, where she enjoys the sunshine and spending time with her beautiful daughter. Dr. Marcy, would you please say hello to everyone?
Hello. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm really honored. It's an honor and privilege to be with you here today.
Oh, you are welcome. And Dr. Marcy, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your mission.
Yes, well, you summed most of it up very nicely for me. Like you said, I am in Arizona where it's now 82 degrees. So our warmth is here. And I do have a daughter. She turns 11 on Friday and
Wow.
a puppy named Vinny. And I am a psychologist. And like you said, my mission my passion, my purpose is really to empower modern women to step into authentic and courageous living. And I think that passion comes from my own experience and knowing the contrast of being able to live authentically. So
Oh
I'm
my,
really excited to be here. Thank you.
oh my gosh. And thank you for being here on this live stream. So, meditation and self care has been one of the top questions and discussions and trends that we have been receiving questions about at Thriving Practice. And meditation and self-care are pillars in your own life, Dr. Marcy. How did that come about?
Yes, I've definitely known the contrast. It was about 10 years ago, actually, that my life had done a complete 180. At the time, my now ex husband was struggling with some mental health and prescription drug issues.
Mm,
And as a result, we lost our business, we lost our house. I went through a divorce and found myself in a position where I had sole custody of my daughter. I was fighting custody battles, divorce battles, and I was the only one financially contributing. And my nearest family was 2,000 miles away in Ohio. And so I was just completely depleted physically, emotionally. I was just working, taking care of my daughter. I was just existing. And I realized when I was with my daughter, when I was at work, I was never really present. And that's not the way I wanted to live my life, especially having my daughter. She was about 1.5 at the time.
mhm.
And I made a very conscious decision to set my alarm about 30 minutes earlier and develop a meditation practice. And the other thing that I did is I made a commitment to myself, and that after work, between getting off work and the time I picked up my daughter, I would give myself an hour for whatever I needed to do, whether that was taking a nap, getting groceries, getting my nails done, hitting a yoga class, whatever I needed to replenish myself, so that when I did pick up my daughter, I was present and I was a better mother and I was so much more fulfilled. But I think the key in doing that too is I also made a deal with myself that if I did that, I would not allow myself to feel guilty.
Mm.
Because I think so often there's this wrong message that we get, especially as women, that being a good mother is being selfless, depleting yourself, and going above and beyond, being a martyr, and that's false. And so it's really challenging those false narratives and recognizing, I want to model for my daughter what self-care looks like. I don't want to show her that you should be exhausted and put others needs before yours. And so I really tried to incorporate that in my life. And in doing so, I gained so much more clarity and presence, and it changed. Those two simple things changed my life completely.
Wow. And I feel the same way as a single parent, as a single mom, about taking time for rest and reflection because wearing so many hats, like you had mentioned, you're the head of household. When you're constantly rotating different hats and trying to handle the demands that my business required, to handle my own my daughter's needs, as she's growing up and trying to figure out how to navigate this world, and also, handling what my clients' needs are and giving them my heartfelt attention. And then, oh, geez, by the end of the day, I have my own needs, self care. And what I found was that when I didn't make self care a priority, I was constantly striving, and pushing myself to the point where I was frazzled. And when I got to the point of being frazzled and overwhelmed and exhausted, I lost my focus on my purpose. I lost my focus on my passion. I couldn't even really wrap my mind around what is my next move that felt good for me because I was constantly striving. And you're right, our children watch us and they pay attention to this. And so what I could see was my daughter mimicking certain patterns in myself of constantly pushing, 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 not turning off technology at a certain time of the night, um, not turning off artificial light so that we could, relax and unwind. Her brain was constantly going too. And it got to a point where she started saying, I can't sleep at night. And and as thought about that, I'm like, neither can I. So you're watching me do the same patterns, but when I started putting focus on my own self-care, what happened there, Dr. Marcy, is it actually opened up self-care discussions with my own clients who were also striving, pushing themselves. They were burnt out, they were overwhelmed, they didn't know where to take their next step in order to grow their practice, in order to build it, to expand it, because they were also experiencing burnout and pushing themselves to the limit. So when I gave myself permission to have self-care, I was also simultaneously giving my daughter permission for self care. And that started a loving domino effect throughout all my clients as well. We started making self care number one discussion in that. And and I'm sure you've seen this within your own life, in your own practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I relate so well to everything that you said. And I think we have to keep in mind that when we're in that state of stress, we're in that lower brain fight, flight, or freeze response.
Right.
And that's what often happens is we get stuck or we get paralyzed with fear. We can't move forward. And in reality, when we are in a relaxed muscle body, when we're prioritizing our mental, physical, spiritual well being, we become in alignment with our authentic self and we can be more in our frontal brain where the executive functions occur. So we have better thinking, we can organize, we can logic, we can have better decisions and know better next steps than when we're in that lower brain response. So
Right.
there's really a lot of science behind it too. And I agree with you. As far as with my daughter, she was super young when I started doing that. But she's very, even today, she'll come home and she'll be like, Mom, I just need to give myself 30 minutes to relax. Or, like, Mom, go take a break for 30 minutes. You've been working really hard. Or, and it definitely, by taking that one action, we can change dynamics for our families, for our clients, for our patients, for all of those that we work with by setting that example. So I definitely relate to what you're saying.
How has self care given you the strength? Um, and the resiliency, I would say, to perform at your best, not just for yourself, but for your daughter, for your family, and for your clients. How has self care done that for you?
It absolutely has in so many ways. I think that one of the main things is it allowed me to be present, to be fully present with whatever I was doing. So it eliminated that mental chatter of what do I need to do for work? What do I need to do to make dinner? Or all these thoughts that would be in my mind. And it allowed me to be fully present with my daughter. So it made me a better mother. When I was at work, I could be fully present and engaged in my work. And so I was much more effective at my work. And it also gave me that clarity. So I will tell you that from that point on, after I started those self care routines, I actually, so at that time, I was a single mom, sole custody of my daughter. I was working full time and I was highly engaged in self care. And I started my 5 year graduate doctorate program with
Wow.
that state. And I was able to do it with peace because, it was really what I believe is my purpose and my passion. And it was very aligned with me. And I found, kind of like you were talking about earlier, when I was taking care of myself, it flowed with ease and grace. And to me, that that was a lot in my plate, but I don't really remember it being, I mean, it was definitely stressful, but it was manageable. And I,
Mhm.
I really contribute that to my meditation and self care practices.
And I absolutely discovered that what self-care also has done for me in the form of strength and resiliency is it has allowed me to get crystal clear on my business goals and on my personal goals. Now, what I like to do is every year, I like to go through 12 areas of my life. And what I do is I review goals and then baby steps that I can take in order to reach those goals. But that never happened before when I was always pushing myself to overwhelm and burnout, because I had no self-care. I didn't have good self-care routines, and whatever I did have as for self-care was maybe, I don't know, like, once in a great great while. It wasn't consistent, but as soon as I started consistently, intentionally having self-care routines, my goals for my business and my personal life got clearer. My goals for my relationships, um, my educational goals, like you, I started building educational goals for myself because I implemented self-care routines, and I started looking at the value of all these different areas of my life because I took time to just quiet my mind every single day. I was doing breath work, stretching, meditation. I also use the emotional freedom technique, the tapping, just so that I could get clear on what my next baby steps were as they related to my goal. And after every single self care practice I would do, I always had my journal handy because I would get an aha moment, a revelation, an inspired idea. Um, and now, a matter of fact, anywhere I go, I keep either a pad of paper with me, in my car, in my purse. I keep my journal handy so that as I'm doing just a moment of self care, I'll get an inspiration and I write it down and I explore it and I determine based on that idea which of my 12 goals does that idea fit in? And do I need to take a baby step in order to reach, or do I need to take another baby step in order to complete and reach that goal? But that's what self care has done for me. It has helped me get absolutely crystal clear on what my goals are in all 12 areas of my life that I focus in on. Here, also just simply making time for physical fitness. Like, it's just like, you know what? I need to do this because this is the only body I get to do life in. And I want to make it a priority. You
I
know what
was
I mean?
the same thing that, when I'm meditating, when I'm engaged in self-care, the intuitive thoughts and ideas just come. And I do the same thing. I have a journal handy. I write down notes. Maybe it's a word or an inspiration. And maybe it doesn't mean anything until a month or so, but it's always an inspired, intuitive idea or thought. And I agree with you. I think that there's a sense of ease in taking those next steps because when we are engaged in self care, we're sending ourselves the message that we love ourselves, we trust
Yes.
ourselves, we care about ourselves, we are a priority. And so we're able to move forward with those goals and ambitions with so much more ease and grace because we have that foundational self love and self trust.
Oh, so good. So good. Wow. I'm sitting here and I'm having ideas right now that are popping up. But anyway, I want to talk to you about your expertise in compassion fatigue and burnout. Can you tell us how this is especially relevant to those working in healthcare and helping professions?
Absolutely. Yes. So, as you shared earlier, I spent about a decade working as an educational psychologist in the schools, and I saw this happening all the time. I was surrounded with teachers psychologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, all these professionals that came into the profession with this joy, excitement, enthusiasm, because that's what's the compassion satisfaction part, which is, I think why many of us in the helping profession do what we do. It feels good to be of service, to have that purpose, and to really help others. But what happens when we don't engage in self care goes to the opposite end of the spectrum, which is where that compassion fatigue lies. And that's actually made up of two different parts. So, first is the burnout, which I think most people, if they're not experiencing, they've at least heard of and are pretty familiar with. But that has more to do with the environmental and organizational components of the work. So, the culture and how they're supported. But then, particular to those of us in those helping professions, is another area called secondary traumatic stress. And so often when we're in the helping professions, if you're hearing, a lot of traumatic stories about your clients, you're dealing with death, strategies, all of these kind of things, and you're not able to lovingly detach, what happens is you can actually experience the same physiological response, even though that's never happened to you. And the reason for that is that the brain doesn't know the difference between an actual experience and a thought. So if you think about that for a minute, if you're playing over and over and over in your mind these traumas that you're experiencing, or you're witnessing every day, your brain is literally experiencing that trauma over and over and over again, which again is putting you in that lower brain fight, flight, or freeze response. And so that's why, in addition to really supporting the burnout part of it, but really engaging in self care to lovingly detach from that is so crucial. I've seen firsthand so many amazing people in the medical profession leave because they weren't engaged in self care. They were putting others' needs as a priority, and they eventually burnt out. They
Right.
had compassion fatigue, and they left. They left what they loved, and um, research shows that if you are engaged in self care and you can lovingly detach, it actually increases the level of compassion satisfaction. So by introducing self care strategies into your workforce, if you have employees, you're one promoting a better work environment and reducing burnout, and then secondly, really teaching your employees or yourself to lovingly detach from the trauma or emotion that can be really negatively affecting you.
Mm. Because we all in the healthcare industry, we all have excessive demands on our empathy. We all do. And that can leave us worn out, numb, dreading the next day on the job, and wishing that that exhausting feeling would go away. We really do. Because we're drowning in it. We're drowning not only in our own fatigue, but we're drowning in the suffering of others at the same time. And what I have seen from compassion fatigue in our own clients that are looking to build, scale, and expand their practices is that it's compassion fatigue is more than just being overworked. It's really a threat to the safety of the patients, their own patients and their own clients, and even their own well-being for that matter. And so this is why we have made, even in our own coaching, in my own coaching practice, self-care the first thing that gets addressed as part of the goal. Is because if I'm sensing, and if my client is sensing that, yeah, we're dealing with a bit of overwhelm here, then any of those goals that we're trying to get down, it's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a struggle. So let's make self-care the priority first, so that we have ease and grace and flow into this journey of building out our business. Otherwise, it feels like you're drowning every single day.
And there's so many people that are suffering with compassion fatigue and maybe not even aware of what's really going on. So
Right.
I agree, it's really important to get that message. And I love that you promote putting yourself first, because it's a
Yeah.
trickle down effect. And if you model self care, your employees are going to be more productive. They're going to be more wholesome well-being. They're going to be able to function at their best. So I really love that you do that.
And in your own experiences, what differences have you noticed in practices that teach and support self-care versus those that don't?
Mhm. So, like I said, I do a lot of corporate wellness programs. A lot of those designed on self care, where some I come in and what they've done is instead of if they have monthly meetings every other month, I do a self care training, and a different type of settings like that. And overall, we found that based on the survey and statistics that it's actually people are able to have a higher caseload but higher job satisfaction. It's reduced absenteeism, reduced levels of burnout, reduced levels of compassion fatigue. And the culture, from what they explain, the culture, the environment, the employees feel supported and cared about and nurtured. And so there's been the feedback that I've been given just based on those surveys and their research has been tremendously supporting of mindfulness, of self-care, of meditation, of really making that a priority in the workforce.
And I have seen this, in addition to the corporate wellness programs that many practitioners are implementing in their own practice as they're expanding and building their practice and expanding online into a virtual practice. I want to tell you something that was really interesting from a group of clients that are in the dental industry. Many people may not know that dentists are really trained to treat and manage snoring and sleep apnea. They may not, maybe that's just not a discussion that you've had with your dentist, but there are many dentists that are trained to treat that. And dental sleep medicine is an area of dental practice that focuses on the oral appliance therapy to treat sleep, disordered breathing, including snoring, obstructive sleep apnea. And dentists work together with physicians to help identify the best treatment for each patient. So when I started working with this group of dentists, and it was in a multi-practice dentist, they said, we would love to talk about expanding our education in the area of sleep online. So their virtual, they had a physical practice, they had multiple dental offices, but they created with us a virtual practice online that spoke about sleep. And then once we were able to launch the sleep education and customized wellness programs around sleep, then that triggered another wave of virtual practice education and customized wellness programs around self-care from a dental office.
Wow,
From a dental office. Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know how many of you have ever asked your dentist, do you have any self-care programs around sleep? But this group does now, this group. And it has been an amazing experience watching this dental practice expand and add to their customized programs around sleep, around anxiety, around self-care, just, little things to educate their patients about the importance of sleep, but also they tied in their custom program into their expertise, which is sleep medicine, using that oral appliance therapy. Have you, and then that's another reason why I like folks to really look at what are the goals of their patients, really talking with their patients about what are some things that you're struggling with that a dentist could possibly work on with you. These are things that you can, as you're writing down these ideas, when you work with a knowledgeable coaching team like my team, we can help build the goal, build the framework, and make sure that we're taking baby steps to get you there. And that's another reason why we teach mindset exercises to practitioners too. Again, we want to make sure that the practitioners are taking care of themselves first. I have a program called Get More Clients in 90 Days. It's a training program, and it really helps practitioners get clarity on what's been keeping them stuck in old patterns of thinking. Um, I really teach doctors in this program how to be masters of their mindset. And because there's really nothing better than hearing someone say, "Hey, I'm ready to take a baby step forward and change my thoughts and look at my life a little bit differently." And that takes mindset techniques and being a master of your thoughts. But it also takes, thinking out of the box, asking your patients, what is your biggest struggle? I mean, these dentists ended up surveying their patients, asking them, what is your biggest struggle right now? And it was sleep. And they're like, why don't we just build a custom program around sleep? We're already trained in
Right.
this. Why not just do that and put the entire customized program online in a membership base where people can pay a monthly fee to be trained on sleep, self care practices as an extension of being a patient at that dental office? Isn't that pretty cool?
So I was just going to say, having a supportive program like yours, and then, engaging in self care so you get those intuitive ideas. What a beautiful combination for living a life with purpose and passion. That's really amazing.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It is. So anyway, you've got some exciting offerings coming up, and would you tell us just a little bit more about those and how we can connect with you even further after this session of the masterclass?
Absolutely. I would love for you to follow me on my journey on Facebook. I'm at Dr. Marcy B, as well as Instagram. It's Dr. Marcy B. And then I'm actually, right now, I have pre sale book sales for my new book called The Conqueress, A Guide to Overcoming Obstacles and Honoring Yourself. And it shares a lot of my personal journey and then the compiled steps that use psychology, science, and spirituality to navigate through those challenges. And it operates in the premises as a society, with technology and science, we've advanced really quickly, but we failed to keep up regarding our social emotional wellness.
Mm,
So in reality, the goal to keep up is to slow down. And so I go through four different layers. First is feel, in which I teach a lot about mindfulness and meditation and breath work so that we really start to get in touch with our true feelings and really get connected with our authentic self. And then next is explore. So that's where we can start to challenge those negative thought patterns, like we talked about, like, oh, this is what a good mother is, or any of those limiting beliefs that we have. And so I use a tool called Brain Retrain, which actually teaches us to retrain our brain to develop new healthy patterns in responding to life. And then the next layer is acceptance, which really has to do with both action and surrender. So like being able to realize the points at which you've taken all your action steps and something is simply out of your control. So instead of staying in that mind rumination and the mental chatter, learning just how to surrender and trust that there's something more powerful that maybe has a better plan than you. And then finally, the transformation. So once you've really aligned with your authentic self and you're taking those courageous, authentic actions, setting boundaries and creating healthy habits around that to protect yourself. So I'm super excited for it to come out. And I did actually write this down if you have your journal because it won't be posted anywhere. But I did create a coupon code that's valid through the end of the week, self care, to really promote everyone engaging in self care, and that will give you a 10% discount on my book. So I will be sending that link on your site. So I would love for you to join me in that journey and to join me on social media as well.
and I love how you've stepped professionals through different chapters of self care. Um, I mean, every wildly successful female doctor that I've spoken with has has really made self-care a priority. They have made it the priority. And I mean, even to the point where I let them know that w- let's put a pause on getting involved in this coaching program until you've made self-care a time for yourself, because you're going to get so much more out of working with my team, um, being present, being focused, being relaxed than you would being frazzled and overwhelmed and things like that. Now I'm a big advocate of journaling and putting my thoughts down on paper. So I want to post a question in our Thriving Practice Sisterhood Facebook group so that I can get some feedback from the webcast participants. So when you go to our Facebook group, you're going to see a masterclass journal prompt asking, what is your favorite way to spend a lazy day? So that's the question, the journal prompt. And it's just simply asking, what is your favorite way to spend a lazy day? So look for a hashtag, day one. It's going to say hashtag day one. Look for that post in the group. And if you don't mind me asking, Dr. Marcy, what is your favorite way to spend a lazy day? You are an very successful doctor. And I don't want the other female practitioners to think, oh, you're always going, 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 running, running, running. You are such an advocate for self care. And I love how you take good care of yourself. What is your, just give me one, because I know you've got dozens of them. But that's why you're so successful, Dr. Marcy, because you know how to pump the brakes on life. But if you don't mind me asking, what's your one favorite way to spend a lazy day?
If I had to give one, it's probably taking a nap or a bath.
A nap. Yeah.
Mhm,
Yeah. Oh,
mhm.
I love that. And there's power in just taking a power nap.
Right, absolutely.
And just turning off, just I like to put my AirPods in sometimes and just take a power nap listening to soothing music, and I get up so refreshed, and all I need is 15 minutes just to turn the world off. But my favorite way to spend a lazy day is going for a good hike,
Yes.
going out in the woods, going for a good hike, and just listening to the stream, listen to the birds, getting outside. I'll even go to the extent, as soon as it starts getting nice, is just walking barefoot,
Mhm.
grounding and
Just
walking
really
barefoot and relaxing and spending some really good quality time out there.
yeah, I love being in nature too. I think
Oh yeah, yeah. So anyway, after reading what other sisters share, um, on that hashtag day one journal prompt, we might all get inspired to take some self care action, and especially after listening to this webcast again. Um, so I really want everyone who's listening in to just take a moment, really jot down some ideas about what their goals are, some baby steps in order to get there, and also steps for self-care too, in order for you to reach that goal refreshed, resilient, strong, because our family's watching us and our staff is watching us too. They're watching us too. They're watching us as leaders, and they're wondering, you know, is this mission and vision that the leadership wants to take us to, is it worth it? Because it might not be worth it if you're trying to drive a vision or a mission to expand your practice and all of your staff and your team and even your family see you as
completed.
burnt
Yeah.
burnt out.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, I think, like you said earlier, like it really starts with that leadership and modeling self care as a desirable, healthy action.
Mhm, mhm. I started working with a group of women's health practitioners. So they also found that as they built customized programs online, customized educational series online, they were discovering that more and more clients were finding the self-care programs and exercises not only extremely valuable, but then they started signing up for virtual telehealth appointments too
Oh,
at the
that's
same time. And the staff, because the staff was being taught self-care, the doctors were being taught self-care. When the practitioners showed up on the telehealth appointments, they weren't frazzled. They weren't overwhelmed. They were
that's
relaxed.
very
And I know this is probably a topic for a different webinar, but what is happening is that there are practices that are now getting really poor Google reviews
mm,
because staff and practitioners are showing up to the telehealth appointments overwhelmed,
mm,
burnt out. And what the patients are doing or the clients are doing is they're leaving a poor Google review on there. And so this is another reason why taking care of yourself first is so important, because the last thing that you want to deal with is a bad Google review, a bad doctor review, a bad Facebook review about your practice. And I'm sure, Marcy, you can probably add to that. You've seen enough practitioners try to manage even telehealth for that matter, and they're showing up to these appointments completely burnt out.
right. Like I said, like on that completely opposite end of the spectrum in that compassion fatigue area. And I think that when both professionals and ourselves, when we engage in self care, it's really about there's this underlying message that we're sending that you matter, that you're important, that you're cared about. And I think that for the clients or employees, it really reestablishes this sense of trust and this sense of being supported and having that positive connection, which then propels them to really want to perform at their best capacity. And
Right.
clients are seeing that, no, this person genuinely cares, you know? And so I think that modeling that is so powerful in just those underlying subtle messages of worth.
Yeah, yes. Oh, Dr. Marcy, is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up this webcast?
No, I'm just so grateful to be on here and to be a part of this and just really to spread the message of the importance of self care. You know, I think it's important to remember self care is not selfish, it's actually essential. And, you know, I really just want to encourage you, if you don't have a self care practice, to create one. Start small, whatever it needs to be. But you matter and you're worth it. And it's so important. So
Oh,
thank you for letting me be here.
well, you know what? Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. I really appreciate and highly value everything that you shared this evening. To all the women practitioners that are listening to this through Facebook Live, and also for every single woman who is going to listen to this recording. I just want to let you know that, hey, I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow for another day 2 masterclass. I would hope that every single lady takes care of themselves tonight. And I just want to say, hey, to all the listeners, I love you. And remember that we're all in this together. All right. So take care. Dr. Marcy, thank you.
Thank you.
Sending you big hugs, sister.
I gotcha.
Take care.
Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.